Okay. Welcome back to another episode of the Four Archetypes. I know we've been missing in action for a while. Dr. Eric Tomlinson is here with me. I'm glad to see him back. He hasn't been feeling great, but he's back, and he's going to accompany us today on a ride. May I say, a magic carpet ride? Okay. That was cheesy. Okay, we're back with the Arabian Nights. All right, the 1001 Nights. And today we're going to continue with our stories. And um, we're going to continue with the tale of the first old man, the second old man, and the third old man. So we're going to start with the first old man story and Jinn, and then we will progress from there. So without further ado, Dr. Tomlinson, take it away.
No one better to read the tales of old men than an old man.
Two old
So
men.
here, three old men. So here we go. Jenny, this doe is my cousin, my own flesh and blood. She was promised to me when I was very young, and she was 12, and she came of age under my roof. For 30 years we lived together, but were never blessed with children. And for 30 years I treated her with kindness and care. Then I took a lover who bore me a son like a slice of moon, and my wife soon grew jealous of my lover and our son. One day when the boy was 10, I had to go abroad, and I left my son and lover with my wife, this doe, and disappeared for a whole year. While I was away, my wife learned the art of magic, cast a spell on my son, and changed him to a calf. She called the shepherd and said, "Put him with the cattle." Then she changed his mother to a cow and gave her to the shepherd. When on my return, I asked about my lover and my son. She said, "Your lover died and your son ran away. I don't know where he is." And for a year, my heart was sore with grief, my eyes with tears. When the season came for the great feast, I had the shepherd bring me a fat cow for the sacrifice. And he brought me the cow that was my lover. And as I rolled up my sleeves and held the knife to her throat, she moaned and cried, "My son, my son." Tears ran down her cheeks, and I, amazed and full of pity, turned away and asked the shepherd for another cow. But my wife said, "Kill her, she is nice and fat, good for the feast." I came near the cow to cut her throat, and again she cried, "My son, my son." And I could not proceed, and had the shepherd butcher her for me. But the shepherd, when he skinned her, found neither meat nor fat around her bones, and I regretted having had killed her. To the shepherd I said, "Take her for yourself and give the meat as alms, and find me a young fat calf among the flock." He took the cow away. I never knew her fate. And he brought me my son, my flesh and blood changed to a calf. And when my son saw me, he broke loose from his rope and ran to me, threw himself at my feet, and rubbed his face against me. I was all amazed and full of mercy, soft with pity. Blood cried after blood and sacred ties, and something stirred inside me as I saw him weep and rake the earth, until at last I turned away. To the shepherd I said, "Put him back among the flock. Be kind to him and bring me another." But my wife shouted, "Butcher this one." Angrily I said, "On your advice, I killed the cow for nothing. Now I will spare this calf." "You must kill it," she said. And I took the knife and bound the calf. As I bent to kill my son, he wept and rolled around my feet and mentioned with his tongue. And my heart wavered with pity at such a curious sight. I said to my wife, "I will set him free and leave him in your care." Then I tried to please my wife, this doe, by slaughtering another calf and promising to kill this one, my son, next season. And when God's morning broke, the shepherd came to me and said, "I bring good news. Will you reward me?" I said, "I will." "I have a daughter," he said, "who has studied magic and the art of spells, And yesterday, when I brought home the calf you spared, my daughter took one look at it and laughed and cried. When I asked her why, she said she laughed because the calf was the son of our master the merchant, put under a spell by the merchant's wife, and she cried because his father had killed the son's mother. I could hardly wait till dawn to bring you the good news. When I heard this, Jenny, I gave a cry and fainted. And when I woke, I trailed the shepherd to his home and threw myself with kisses at my son, who turned his face to mine, cheeks wet with tears and jutting tongue as if to say, "For me." To the shepherd's daughter, I said, "If you release him from the spell, I'll give you all my cows and money." She smiled and said, "I have no desire for your cattle or your cash, but I will set him free on two conditions: that you let me marry him, and that you let me cast a spell on his enchanter, or I will not be safe from harm." "Do what you wish and more," I said. "My property and my son are yours. As for my wife, who did this to my son and made me kill his mother, her blood is yours to spill." "No," she said, "but I will let her taste what she has done to others." Then the shepherd's daughter filled a bowl with water, uttered a spell, and said to my son, "If God made you a calf, stay as you are. But if you are enchanted, return to your first form." He shook and changed back to a man, and as I fell on him, he told me what my wife, this doe, had done to him, and said to his mother, and I said, "God has sent us someone to avenge you." Then I gave my son in marriage to the shepherd's daughter, who turned my wife into this doe and said, "Here is a pretty beast. If she is to keep us company, better that she does not bring bad luck and ugly sights." She stayed with us 4 days and nights, months and years. Then one day the shepherd's daughter died, and my son traveled abroad to the country of this merchant you have met. And I went after him to find what had become of him, and brought along my wife, this doe. That is my story. Is it not strange?
And the genie said, "I grant you a third of this man's blood." Then King Shahryar, the second old man with the two black dogs, said to the genie, "If I tell you my story with these dogs and you find it stranger than what you have heard, will you grant me a third of this man's blood?" "I will." So the old man came forward and said, "The tale of the second old man." Dr. Eric,
Sir, read.
please do.
"Genie, these two dogs are my brothers. Our father died and left us 3,000 dinars, and each of us opened a shop. But soon my older brother, this dog here, took his goods, cleared 1,000 dinars, and set out to trade abroad. A full year passed until one day a beggar came by my shop. And when I said, 'May God admit you,' he said in tears, 'Am I so changed?' And looking at his face, I saw my brother. I welcomed him in, but when I asked what had so changed him, he said, 'Do not ask, I have nothing left.' I took him to the bath, dressed him in my clothes, and shared my food with him. And then I looked over my accounts and found that I had doubled my wealth, so that I was now worth 2,000 dinars. I gave my brother half the sum and said, 'Pretend you never went away.' He gladly took his share and opened another shop. Soon my second brother, this other dog, set his heart on travel in his turn. We tried to talk him out of it, but he stood firm and joined a group of traders and was gone for a full year. But he returned like his older brother. 'Brother,' I said, 'did I not warn you not to go?' 'Such is fate,' he said. 'Now I have nothing.' And Genie, I took him to the bath, clothed and fed him. Then I said, 'Brother, I shall do my accounts and see what I have earned this year and set aside the capital. Any profit I have made, I'll share with you. I checked my books and found I had 2,000 dinars of profit, and praising God, I split the grain and gave 1,000 to my brother, who opened another shop. After we had lived together for a while, my brothers again wished to trade abroad and take me with them, but I said, what do you gain from travel that I should hope to gain? The matter ended there, and we stayed in our shops buying and selling. And every year they pressed me again, and every year I refused until 6 years had passed, when I gave in and said, brothers, I'm ready. Let us see how much we have. I found that they had squandered all their wealth on food and drink, but I said nothing. I sold my goods and found I had 6,000 dinars to my name, which I split in half and said, 3,000 is for us to use on our travels. The other 3,000 I shall bury in the ground in case what happened to you happens again, so that on our return, we will have 3,000 dinars to open our shops. And they said, good idea. Then, Jeannie, I buried the 3,000 and split the rest among us, and we bought more merchandise, rented a ship, and filled it with our goods and put to sea. For a month, we sailed the salty sea until we reached a port where we docked and sold our goods, and every coin earned us 10 more. As we prepared to leave, on the shore, I met a woman dressed in rags who kissed my hands and said, will you do me a favor and trust I will reward you? And I said, I'll help you regardless of reward. Marry me, she said, and dress me. Take me in the boat with you back to your country. Let me be your wife and give myself to you. Be kind to me and you will be repaid. Do not be fooled by how I look. My heart went soft for her, and I said yes, dressed her in fine clothes and married her. Then I took her to the boat, spread the bed, and gave her my attention. We sailed for many nights and days, and I spent days and nights with her. I fell in love. I forgot my brothers, who grew jealous, envied my prosperity, and fixed their eyes on what was mine. And they conspired to kill me, and the devil made them think that this was fair. One night I slept beside my wife. They picked us up and threw us into the sea. My wife had woken from her sleep, changed to a genie, and bore me away to an island. In the morning she said, it is I, your wife, who saved you from drowning, for I am one of the jinn who believed in God. And when I saw you by the sea, I loved you and came to you disguised. Now I must kill your brothers. I thanked her in a daze and said, but as for murdering my brothers, it is not what I want. I am not like them. And I told her our whole story, first to last, but this only fed her anger. I'll fly to them tonight, she said, and sink their boats and let them drown. For God's sake, don't, I said. Leave evil to the evildoers. After all, they are my brothers. When I had calmed her anger, she carried me away and set me down on the roof of my house. I dug up the money I'd buried, greeted my neighbors in the market, and opened up my shop. And when it was night, I came home to find these two dogs tied up, and at my sight they rose and rubbed themselves against me, weeping. Then my wife appeared and said, these are your brothers. Who did this to them? I sent my sister, she said, who changed them to this form. They will not change back before 10 years have passed. Then she told me where to find her and departed. Now 10 years had passed, and I was on my way to her to have the spell lifted when I met this man. On learning what awaited him, I promised not to leave him until you returned. This is my story. Is it not amazing? It is very strange, said the genie. I grant you a third of my claim on his blood. Then the third old man said, Genie, don't break my heart. If I tell you a story stranger than the first two, will you grant me a third of your claim on his life? I will, said the genie. And the old man said, listen. The tale of the third old man. Lord and Sultan of the Jinn, this mule was my wife. Some time ago, after I had been abroad for a whole year, I returned to find my wife in bed with a slave, talking and flirting and laughing and kissing. And at my sight, she rose and took a cup of water, spoke over it, threw it at my face, and changed me to a dog, and chased me from the house. I took refuge in a butcher shop and nibbled at the bones. The butcher brought me home, and his daughter took one look at me and hid her face and said, "Why have you let a strange man in?" "What man?" Her father said. "This dog is under a woman's spell," she said, "but I can break it." "For God's sake," said her father, "break it." She took a cup of water, spoke over it, and threw it at my face and said, "Return to your first form." And I changed back and kissed her hands and said, "Please cast a spell over my wife who did this." She gave me a little of her water. When you see her sleeping," she said, "splash this water over her and she will change to what you wish." When I saw her sleeping, I splashed the water over her and said, "Leave this form for the form of a mule." And she became the mule you see with your own eyes, Lord and Sultan of the Jinn. The genie shook with delight and gave him a third of his claim. And having no more claim on the merchant's life, he left. The merchant thanked the three old men, and they gave him their good wishes for his safety. Then each went on his own way. The merchant went to his family and lived with them until the day he died. Those were fun stories.
That's a great story. So, um, every time she tells a story, so she says, but morning gained on Shahrazad and cut her speaking short. The strangest story, said her sister. If I live another day, Shahrazad said, I shall tell you, stranger. The king decided he would spare her till the story ends and kill her the next day. When night fell, her sister said, if you're not asleep, tell us a tale to break the waking night. And so she tells these stories um, to keep the king interested and not wanting to kill her. So, how to negotiate a bloodletting, right? Because what the king does is kill every wife he has. So, how do you negotiate that? So, she creates the vision of this jinn, and the jinn wants blood. And the merchant negotiates with the jinn for a third of the man's blood. So every time he negotiates and tells him a story, he gains a third of his blood. By the end of the third old man, the third story, the jinn has given back all the blood he had claimed from the merchant at the beginning, which is what Shahrazad is doing to King Shahryar. She's reclaiming the blood of the woman in the kingdom, a third at a time, a story at a time, a piece at a time. In the third story, she jumps into a retelling of what happened to Shahryar that made him go completely mad. So why does she do that? Why does she activate him in this way? Is it smart to activate him in this way? Maybe is to pass on that this has happened to many men and not just to you. Maybe to normalize it. But she keeps him interested enough. He wants to hear another story. He wants her to keep on going. She gets another day of reprieve. She survives the night. And so 1001 Nights is a story about survival. It's a story about the magic of survival, how creative we become when things are on the line that there's no return from. What did you think, Dr. Eric?
I think she's got him on a hook and she reels him in and then lets
Yeah,
him go back out.
yeah,
That,
yeah,
I'm in Florida and they do a lot of fishing down here, and
yeah.
that's what she's doing with him, and it's amazing. And you know, there's a side of her, I think, that gains some satisfaction from that.
Oh, 100%. I think her story about how people are changed into animals, if you notice,
Yeah.
she changes the men into animals, and then there's a sacrifice, and then she reverses the spell. So she's talking about characters in the story of the first old man, about these magicians, these women who are magicians, and they cast magic spells on these men. But at the same time, um, when they're foiled, they're not executed. Like they're turned into that animal that they had used to turn others into. So they turn her into a cow, but they don't kill her. That's the important part of the story. The important part of the story is Shahrazad is trying to convey to the king not to kill the women. So, but she knows he's not going to buy into that they're innocent. So she's showing that no, they could be deceptive. They can be cruel. Um, Yet it catches up with them. And he does not have to kill them to show them that they are in the wrong through using the yarn, the tale, as she takes it and stitches him from head to toe. And so he's stitched to his seat, wanting to hear where she's going to go next. Because she knows he's also eager to kill her. But he's becoming um, more lenient by letting her live on and tell more stories. So, as Dr. Eric put it, she has him on the hook and she reels him in. And then when he starts struggling, she lets him go. And then they reel them in again. So, um,
And he makes Dr. Lahab, he she makes his suffering is reciprocal. She turns, you know, his brothers into dogs. You know, you know, get a taste of your own medicine, merchant. I mean,
yeah,
he suffers in. She didn't just kill him because why kill him when she can make him suffer some of the same feeling that he has put upon other people.
yeah,
It's kind of a back at you form of torture, except rather than feel sorry for him, we have to remember what he has done.
yes, yes. But she also knows that he's a serial killer and she needs to basically talk him away from his prey because
That's a
he's
good point.
gotten a taste for
Yeah,
blood. And
yeah.
now she has to move him away from the idea of tasting blood, of the continuous bloodletting of these women in his kingdom.
I have a question. What is the significance of it only being contained within the ability of, in this story, young women or women, maybe it doesn't have to anything to do with them being young, of being the ones who can see through the spells?
Well, I think
Their,
in the
their fathers
tales,
don't see it. Their fathers don't see through it. He
yes,
doesn't see through it, but here are two women who see right through it, and as soon as they see him, know that they're under a spell and it's a human being.
yeah.
How
So the
how are they of
motif
this
of
knowledge?
Eve, right? So this is the motif of Eve. She becomes conscious in the garden. This is a motif, right? A motif of
It's very good.
the consciousness,
Yeah.
the ability to see what is not seen. And so she's also revealing pieces of her. She sees what is not seen. She's the magician, remember? So she sees what is not seen. So her stories are about pieces of her. They see what is unseen. Right? So she's a liberator, she's a revolutionary. She's facing certain death. She's facing the executioner. And she's trying to put it off day by day. It's like, how do I gain another day? How do I get through the other day? I have to see further than what they see. And that's what she uses. She uses her foresight, her ability to glimpse the future to change her fate. So with that, um, we'd like to invite you to come back for the story of the fisherman and the jinn. And hopefully we will carry on next week. Um, before we go, we'd just like to inform everybody that we got a patent for young advanced motor processing um, as a treatment. And we just wanted to thank everybody for their help and support, JAMP and the Institute for Conflict, in its goal to create a treatment for trauma that heals trauma in a quick and efficient way. So we're ecstatic about our new status, which we always believed in. We had already published 3 articles, Dr. Eric. We published case studies. We also published our psychosomatic and the PTCI scales to explain how the treatment works and how the elevation of symptomology occurs during treatment. If you'd like to take a look at that, it's available to on the www.instituteforconflict.com website. It is in the literature section. You could just click on it. It's free to download, read, share. So thank you so much for being with us over the years. We love doing this and we love to tell stories. So, um, from me and Dr. Eric, would you like to say something? As we usually uh, sign off, we are the Institute for Conflict and we are not afraid.
We are not afraid.
We are not afraid. Have a good week, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Take care.